My road to Project Return started when I was 5 years old. 29 days after I turned 5 years old, my father was shot and killed. I'm from a small town in Michigan, Cassopolis, Michigan. Rural town, farmers, farms, plowing gardens, things of that nature. And I was the oldest child of my father when he died. I was the oldest grandchild. Well, in a span of 3 years, I was uprooted from Michigan and brought to Milwaukee. By that time, I had two little brothers under me. And as a young child, as a young boy, in my mind, first of all, I had been taken away from my support system, my family, who had been with me up until the age of 5, up until the age of 6. I had been taken away from them, and then I was brought to the city, which was completely the opposite of where I came from, where everybody knew each other and cared about each other. And then I came to an environment where no one cared about you, but I didn't know that. So I approached people from the same perspective that I had as I was growing up, and boy, I just ran into all kinds of hell. But not only that, my dad died. Nobody was honest with me. No one taught me how to grieve. So I was in shock, but I didn't know I was in shock. I thought everything was normal in my life. I had to protect my little brothers, even though I was scared to death, living on the city streets in 30th and Garfield back in 1972. And that was my life. My mother married a man. My stepfather was a pastor of a church. And I grew up in an environment where what I was told was normal was not normal. It was not normal. I didn't understand that there was something wrong with me. There were some issues inside of me that needed to be addressed. But the people that were over me, the adults that were in my life, they did not have any clue that I needed help with the situation that had happened to me when my dad died. Help with grieving, help with those things. So as I grew, people just looked at me as a young person as just, he's just a bad boy. He's just a troublemaker, and he's going to get what he deserves. He's going to sow what he reaps. And all the time I was hurting, but then my hurt turned into anger once I got to a certain age. And that's when I started acting out and started to doing criminal acts. And I got into drugs, and I got into having sex with girls, and involved in all the rebellious stuff, because that was fun, that was cool. And the people who were supposed to be doing the right thing, or who were saying that they were in positions in my life to be good role models to me, actually turned out to be the ones that pushed me towards rebellion. Well, one day I made up my mind, 17 years old, I made up my mind that I was going to completely go through with my rebellion. And I made up my mind to I went into drugs, went into crime, and I was going to do my own thing. I was my own man. I was old enough. I was smart enough. I was strong enough, and couldn't nobody stop me. But when I made that decision, that was the day I made a decision to go down a long and dark road. And so that's where my story begins. In 2004, I was getting out of prison, and I was put on probation. While I was on probation, I used drugs, got a dirty UA, and my probation officer referred me to Project Return. The first time that they referred me to Project Return, I went for a couple of meetings, and then I stopped going. I wasn't ready. Ended up getting revocated. Went to MSDF, and while I was in MSDF, it just, things started dawning on me that I was getting older. My children were getting older, and it was like, did I think I was fooling somebody by me pretending that my life wasn't going? My life was absolutely not going anywhere. There was nothing in my life that was beneficial to my kids. There was no example when my children were around me and they loved me and they wrapped their arms around me and acted like they loved me. I didn't believe them anymore because it was nothing that I was doing that was positive in any way to influence them. And that's when I surrendered. That's when I surrendered back. I surrendered all the anger I had towards the people who were in my life, who were supposed to guide me and who were supposed to protect me and supposed to love me. And then I surrendered myself to God because I was angry with God because he took my dad and the things that he allowed to happen in my life. How could you let this happen? You know, because I was really raised and had a thought process as I was growing up of just self-centeredness. I thought everything was supposed to be comfortable, be perfect, and things were not. They were absolutely the opposite in my life. And so I blamed God. I was actually mad at God. And so one day I got to the point where it wasn't doing me no good to be like that. So I surrendered to him. And once I surrendered to him, that's when he spoke to me and he told me, he said, while you're in these facilities, he said, I want you to listen to these people as if it's me talking directly to you. Don't look at them. Don't consider who they are, where they come from, or if they're doing something wrong in their life, but they still have authority over you. You just look at them like I'm talking directly to you. And once I got that thought process going in myself, I began to have an open mind and I began to grow. And that's when I came to Project Return. The second time I came to Project Return, my heart was open and I embraced what they were talking about. I was able to hear what they were trying to help me with, and I was able to see results. I was able to take risks that I wouldn't take before, and one of those risks was to trust someone. I didn't trust myself up until this point in my life, absolutely not. So I didn't trust anybody else. That was one of the things that kept me away for so long, was that I just would not take the chance to trust somebody. My fear level was so high, but it wasn't fear. It wasn't fear from my perspective. I didn't call it fear. I thought I was a tough guy, but I was actually this scared little boy whose daddy had gotten killed a long time ago. So I was put into a group at Project Return with a young man, and it was just something different about this young man. The one thing that he did not do is judge me. And I judged myself. I had gotten so bad. I criticized myself. I was my worst critic. I punished myself the worst. And all of these things that I'm saying, I did not realize this was what I was doing. This was, to me, was just normal. But these are all learned behaviors that I had learned, and I had learned them all against myself. And so I was my greatest enemy. I was my greatest enemy, and I didn't understand that. And I met this person, and this person, no matter what I said, what I did, what I came to the table with in these meetings, he never judged me. I mean, to this day, 5-6 years later, I still know him, and still to this day, this person never judged me. And it just did something to me that he didn't do that. And so after a while, I started to talking to him, opening up to him, and then one day he just told me, you know, you're going to have to trust somebody. You're going to have to trust somebody. And so I trusted him. And the first time that I trusted him, you know, I was real timid and scared, and it failed. He had to be somewhere at the exact time that I needed to speak to him, and he wasn't there. I went in, I relapsed. But I learned from that it wasn't him. You know, it was like God had told me. It was like, it's me talking to you, and I need you to remember that I will send people through your life to help you to grow, but you got to still keep your focus on me. And my focus got kind of diverted, and I started looking at this man and this human being and putting my trust in him, and forgot that it was God who I was supposed to be trusted. So I failed. But then God brought me back up, and then the next thing that Project Return did for me is it allowed me to be able to vent and to release and vomit up all the hurt, the anger, the pain, the disappointment, the neglect, everything that had happened in my life up until that point that I had held inside myself, I was able to slowly start releasing that in these groups. I would be able to talk about it. And I noticed that as I talked, I would release something and then I would have room to gain something. So I would release something one week and I would talk about a situation one week, and the next week I'd come back, it would all be taken care of. And it didn't matter how extreme the situation seemed to me, no matter what. When I came back the next week, it had been dealt with, and I realized it was because I talked about it. And so I started to learn in these little small things. So after the 12-week program was up, I kept on coming. Like, I knew after a while that this was my church. This was where I was saved at, even though at the same time, God blessed me to be in a wonderful church and to become a member of a church and to start being more responsible, to start being consistent, and to start doing things in my life, new things, open my eyes, have an open mind. This group was church for me. I was able to spiritually allow things to happen in my life. And one of the main things that happened was being able to speak out the bad things that were in my life and to take in the good things and to be honest. To be honest. I could be honest. I could be myself in these places. I could show my frailties. I could show my faults. I could show my failures and be loved anyway. And it was an awesome experience for me. But Project Return did that. And then once I started to doing the groups and being there after my treatment was over, then I got into the fatherhood focus group, and I graduated from that and did parenting classes. And then I started to go and speaking to other young people or other people in institutions and places like that and telling them how it changed me and how I was changed. And it just blossomed from there. I love it. I love Project Return. One of the most important things that happened in my life was that I was reunited with my family. You know, I have a wife. I have a large family, and I lived a lifestyle so many years where it's like I am blessed to have a relationship with my children. And I'm in a position right now where I have a wonderful relationship with my children. Not all of them, because some of them are going through their own stuff that they learned from their dad back in the day. Don't want to let it go. But that's their journey. I'm with them. I'm behind them. And I'm realizing just being there and doing what I need to do for myself is a blessing for them. And I just thank God for that. God used Project Return to rehabilitate me, heal me, strengthen me, and then to send me out to recruit other people. Hey, come on in here, man, because this place you will get what you need, the resources that you need. You will get those things right here if that's what you're looking for. We need to stand up and we need to start getting the information out about places like Project Return and about the programs that they have, about the fatherhood programs and the ALD programs and the job search programs, and just all the different things that they can help you with your life. The resources that they have to help you in your life with is just phenomenal. And right now today, I am a father, I'm a husband, a productive member of society. I am a member of a wonderful church organization, and I am blessed.